Oh, okay. So one of the things that we try to, understand is drive the movements from the legs and the waist. So we've been doing this for a while. So, legs are something that don't cooperate all the time, and then the torso. So, so let's take a step back into second form, and then go through it. And let's see if we have, you know, some of the body mechanics and timing to take it to another level of execution. So, I mean, it's good to use small forms to get some of that stuff in there, and it should have filtered back down from the more advanced forms, like the covering hand, the diagonal strikes, the uppercuts. These are all, pretty basic, but the thing is, the execution has to be right? It's okay. So let's try. Let's do it to the count first, or no, let's run through it first, just to see if you stay together. See if it's everybody, because you're just kind of just doing it on your own, right? So let's try to stay together, but just go from the beginning, and then we'll do the count. All right, ready? Begin. Go. Okay, good. Deep breathing. So actually look pretty good. Pretty good setups, especially like trapping hand. The diagonal strike sometimes because there's one here, then there's one here. Those two diagonals should be the same as far as the upper stroke. So what's the setup? I just saw Marina, so we could fix that one. So what first thing you do, you punch, right? Then you set this up. So this is your body form, right? When you step through, this you're there. This goes here, and this goes here. So turning simultaneously would be this. This is like this. This hand is like this, right? So when this hand goes like this, sink the elbow, relax the shoulder, right? So that just does that. That's the same thing that happens here. To here, to here. So when we break it down, we know that this is here, this is here. What we drive the movement from, because the body, this is holding the ball, right? We turn the body, turn the body. So we do a middle block. This is the position. It doesn't have to cross the center until we turn, right? So we fill the center by turning. So when we turn, you have to sink the elbow. Right? So this is where the sinking of the elbow. A lot of times we go to a position, we're not sinking the elbow. We just go like this. But the sinking of the elbow actually adds a subtle component to it because in use, it makes a difference. You can stay here. And the useful of this is it decepting, right? The sinking of the elbow. The sinking of the elbow is this, right? That little bit of a rock in the motion becomes pivoting. So when you go through your form and you don't seat that elbow, then you can't unleash it. So it does two things. One thing it's doing is winding up. The second thing it's doing is unwinding. So when you open your stance, when you're here, even here. When you're here and you turn, it stays here. And then you turn this foot up, step up, and then you do the salute, right? So we're here, right? So the hand comes over to here because we're turning. So that's where we sink the elbow. When you sink the elbow, then your body twists. Then when we turn, we step up, the body's still here, and there's where the wind comes up. So those setups is what really has to happen in your back. Then when you're here, you pull. We turn, there's that position. When we're here, if you sink your elbow, there's your structure. Then it comes out. Yeah. But don't make it a physical thing. This becomes physical. This is releasing. Just like I talked about, when you're in a stance, why don't your knees bend? Because it's load bearing, right? So if you tense, it becomes load bearing and then you can't manipulate your skeletal structure. So that's what has to happen, right? The diagonal strike, that setup is pretty consistent. Because from here to here to here is a standard transition, right? So you have to twist your body and at the same time drop your elbow. That's sinking your elbow, relaxing the shoulder. If you're slicing with the sword, your elbow's like this, right? If you go like this, it's going to be there. If you go like this, it's going to be here. So sink your elbow is really important. Get your elbow, get your elbow in position before you do this. You know where you're learning that is here. So we learned it here. We have that angular position, but this hand has to be here. See that? So what do we have to do? We have to set this up to do the slant. If you don't have that set up, then you can't find the line of movement, and it can't be accurate. So accuracy of movement comes from here, right? So you have to curve around. So you can do it two ways. You can go like this, just an arm movement, or turn, turn. You take out the physical aspect of the arm because you generate it from here and you turn to there. That's what we mean by using the waist. Using your waist, that's adding that component. The waist isn't something that we're familiar with in the beginning, and even as you progress, if you don't put it into all your movements, then it's still not familiar, right? You can do it as certain ones. So which ones do you do it in? You do it in the ones that I pointed out the most. But the other ones that I pointed out, it's still left out in left field because we didn't actually figure it out. But if your body starts to recognize it, then it starts to happen all the time. So when we do some of these positions, and I sort of pick and choose which ones they are, is because it's the most obvious that you're not using that. And the thing is, when you start to use it, once the body becomes comfortable and becomes innate, it's going to be in all your movements. You know, the waist is always in the movement. So when you punch and you turn, your body's here. That's already a waist turn. If you're here, it's already a waist turn. When you're here, there's a waist turn. When you're here, there's a waist turn. So all of this becomes a natural motion. So you have to get that into your system. When we're here, there's some continuity of movement. Sink, right? Punch, scoop. So this movement should be one, right? What dictates the direction of your movement? Sink is chin, right? Scoop, lift, open, sink. So when you try to tie your torso into movement, I say movement should be compatible with the torso. When you scoop, you close. When you lift and you open and you sink, then your body will be in. That's building the movement into the body. So everything should be tied together like that. Because when we're here, this is sinking the elbow. Open the chest. Scoop, close, right? Open, and push. So every time your hand comes to here, you have to open. Just like when we're here, you have to open. Open, and then close. So what does it involve? It involves your upper back. You know, most bodies are fairly rigid because we do a lot of stuff that practices rigidity. We think rigidity is being in good shape. But rigidity isn't functional. Rigidity is just tense muscles. So tense muscles are actually useless. You know, other than if you're a bodybuilder and you're, building muscles that you don't need, it's good for the competition, but it's not good for functionality. So when we use our body, it's why we have to control it and what we're using in the right space at the right time. So that's really something that we struggle with that, but that's really what this is about, is learning that. So when we're here, we scoop. That's a scoop. What is scoop? It's part of the lower hoop. The difference between this and this is elbow position, right? This one we sink the elbow, relax the shoulder. This one, we hold it out and round this way. Those are essentially the arm is the same shape. The body form is slightly different. So one's hollowing, one is sinking, and this is actually in a natural position. And then when you scoop up, use a lift. Where's the lift? The straightening of the back. Let's see this, right? So now we're lifting, opening, and pushing. Now we scoop again. And we turn. But in the movement, we're scooping like this. Right? We learn it like this. 1, 2, 3. But in reality, your movement is this. To here. And then when the hand comes out, sometimes this comes out and then comes back in. So here, 1, 2, 3, 4. So it only looks like it's coming out. It really can't do this. It has to be here because I did this. Why did I do this? Because you have to load your back up in order to do this punch. How do you get the power to there? You have to push your back. So moving right to left is that. Reason why you don't want to move this hand is because you're attached to your opponent. So you have to disconnect. Disconnect is this. Right? You see here. The arm get longer and shorter. Opening. So that's opening and closing. So the idea of, they call chi bok, or in here, closing is, so when I'm here, I open. Right? And I close. When I close, I have strength. When I open, it's really staying with you. Chi. It's floating, flexible. So it's called foul ging. Foul ging is floating. It's there without resistance. Chim ging is sinking. So when you're like this, sinking energy is this. Floating energy is this. So if I attach the bridge, this is floating. Right? If I'm here, this is sinking. Now this is this structure. But this structure is created not because I put the structure here. It because this became part of this. And because this is here and my elbow is here, it becomes part of my leg. You see? So the strength is not this. This just has to be there as a structural integrity, not a lot of strength. When I go like this or I go like this, the strength became part of this. The force came from here and here. So where the force comes from? When I'm sinking, the force is because it's driven like that. But you don't do this, you lose your tail. You can't lose your tail. You have to keep the body straight. So you can't let your butt stick out. You'll lose your upper framework. The strength is gone because it doesn't tie to your leg. So that's the first punch in the second horn. There's a lot of stuff going on there, but it's just another one of the body postures. So when we're here, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is going to turn here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this hand, the secondary hand, has to do this. Right? The action is here. Sink the elbow and relax here. close the shoulder here. So that combination of this and this is what the body has to do. So this is 1, 2, 3. All the concept talk about opening and closing, shrinking and expanding is all in the transition. Because my hand is here, I sink and close because my body's turning. That's why when we do this, the body is learning to move. It's closing and opening, closing and opening. So sometimes you can't figure it out because the body's missing something. What's it missing? Not just the coordination, but the idea of the body's joints manipulating so they're working together. That's a coordination that's beyond, the norm. How many people go around opening and closing their armpits, right? Nobody does that. But when you do this, you do. When you're here and you turn, I'm not pulling this and doing this. That's what you would see. The hand is just moving as a function of that. That's passive action. It becomes effective because when I'm here, it does that. But why not punch here? I gained 6 inches, right? So if I can't reach him here, I might as well turn, right? So that makes it very effective, easy, right? Just point and withdraw. But you don't withdraw, you just turn. But it appears to withdraw. So that's where you would capture, right? You're here. So this is actually hooking here. Because I sunk my elbow, if I did that, that would push it out. If I do that, it actually feels like he's being pulled. But I didn't pull. He followed. So that's borrowing his strength. And it's also taking and then giving. So these are theories and concepts because when you attach and someone comes in, right, you don't resist, you take it. So you absorb it. So that's what, that concept is. Give and take. The Qigong used to say that. Gumla would say, I don't want it, I give it back. He pushes, don't resist. So it's like that. But you wouldn't see it in a Hunga form if there's tension. So this is where the balance is. Soft and hard have to work together. So that this simple thing is in Muay Fakun. 1, 2, 3. Then we squat. So you learn it way back in the beginning. All red belt stuff, right? But the thing is, as you progress, you do these movements. You have to understand what it is. The dragon claw is really a middle block to here and a turn. Right? Here, here, here. So it's phase, right? But when we practice Yithimon, we do this. So there's your body form, right? But when you go like this, and you use your body form, now you have a good dragon. That's how the dragon has to work. But when you go like this, what's the purpose of this? Right? You're going to get your arm broken. But actually what this is that. If I do this, if he throws a punch, I do this, I resist. When he punches, there's no resistance. It's efficiency. So I go like this, then I turn to a dragon, the downwardness becomes the force of sinking. That's what the downward is. Here, here, here. Here, here, here. So those are the phases of movement. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back fist. The elbow, the dragon, essentially goes into the same body formation. Center line elbow, elbow, yeah. So this is what we have to understand as category of movement. The low, the middle, the high. The middle, the low. What? Those are just basically our structures. But when we chun, you want to go in before you go out. So you notice here, we're in, out, in, out. So that's opening and closing. So everything is open and closing. In Tai Chi or in Kung Fu, they even say the same thing. Hoi hop, open and close. Seal, receive. Fong is a release. Hoi hop, seal, fong. And then they add these are actually the Qigong's passages. Hoi hop, seal, fong, and gui dao ji. It's like ball bearings. Your body is moving frictionless, has no resistance. How do you get movements to be frictionless and without resistance? Take out the tension. Stiffness creates friction, in these terms. So resistance to movement, I say it all the time in Tai Chi. Conflict in movement is tension. So where do you release it? The joints. So in Kung Fu, Tai Chi, they say, whole body relax. Tai Chi. Tun Sin Fong Long. What is it? Whole body, Fong Long is the release. That's just the idea. You can't release 100% of it. You have to release enough, just the right amount. So the theory is that, and you learn to program the tension and the relaxation as a motor skill. It's all driven from here, and it's only driven based on your understanding. So if your mind doesn't understand, your body can't understand. When you teach your body has some resistance because it still doesn't know. It starts to know when you do it over and over again, and then all of a sudden it's there. So when you're here, there's that position. It looks like that. But when you're here and you sink and you turn, it ends up like that. So what's the sink for? Well, we're here, cross. I don't want to lift. I want to sink. I want to turn. I want to project it forward. None of that is done by the arm. It's done by your body and your legs and your body form. So Qim Jiao Sui Gan, right? So you sink, I sink. Turn. I took out a whole bunch of strength that you would normally use as this. That strength is not usable because you're resisting. When you do a dragon call like this, you're resisting at a point of impact. When I do it like this, you press down, I really don't use anything but turning because it's driven to here and then to here. It doesn't really take any strength. So how do you understand that principle? Not because your teacher took you there and spent 4 days on that movement. They tell you that. You have to go figure it out. And that's how the old teachers used to tell it. So what do you have to do? You have to kind of study it and work with it. And you have to get into the mind of the teacher. But that only happens if you spend enough time with the teacher. And the teacher doesn't talk. You really can't really get into his mind. You only can see. So seeing and learning, you only can get 80% of the visuals and the mental imagery. When they start telling you and talking about it, then you start to get the information to give you something to work with, because you can start to work toward objectives. Sink the elbow, not use strength, turn the body. So you have to go through this process, decipher all the things that is being taught, and then turn it into an action. And that's how most of the skillful people developed it. So if a skillful person teaches it, then you can absorb that information. But if a skillful person doesn't want to share it, then you're in trouble because it's not going to happen. And that's what it is. That's why a lot of the long-term students that have been here, this is the stage that we can begin to understand more on a theoretical side, because the theoretical side is what's missing. It's the missing link. To sink the elbow, this is upper body. This is with the legs. This is turning. Now you put it into your form, your body will do this. When you sit back and you turn and you sink, that's that. When you punch. When you shift and you drop and you turn and you lift, that's that. You create all your positions by the manipulation of your skeletal structure, your legs, your torso, your body. Then you integrate, you integrate, you integrate, you integrate. All this stuff is here. What we're just sitting here, doing this and that, it's all there. But it's segmented, it's like a puzzle. None of it fits until you get it to fit through the process of an open mind. You can't be like, oh, that's what it is, but it's not exactly till you go through it. So, all right, let's do that form one more time. Logakon. Okay, ready? Begin. Hup. So, yeah. So, we all can teach it. We can all share the form with students. But this stuff is actually for your own practice, for your own evolving, so that, because you can imagine, right, after spending 20 years or then you're learning this kind of thing. It's like, how come it wasn't there to begin with? It's because of the body form. So when we're here, after we palm, actually the turn, 1, 2, 3, hold this position. You have to drop the elbow to do that, right? So this and this become part of that sink. This sinking is in everything regarding a cutting hand, right? When you're here, that's the movement, right? When you're here, that's the movement. So when you're here, that's the movement. So you look at the elbow, it's closing. This is closing a physical. This is closing a transition, right? So between here and here, open and close. Tie it to your waist. One is actually more active than the other. So when you thrust down, you drive. When you drive and you want to tie the other side to the hand, what do? You sink. But what happens to here? It closes. You turn, what happens here? It opens and you lift. And the body form becomes twisting like this. But there's no difference in this position to here, right? Now from here, it closes. This is the hand that chops. But it chops because you're turning and you drop your elbow. So what you have to do is just this. It's not this. It's this. You see? So the balance and movement becomes this, and then we open just like this, right? Open to that. So you see how the setup makes it so simple. You just capitalize on gravity on all those movements. We're here, we sink, we rise, we fall, we lift, we twist, open and close, rise and fall. So that's, just using this form to understand some of the driving principles. And then you put those ideas into some of the other forms, because there's a category of movement that it falls into, and it just falls into place. So the skill level evolves based on those ideas. But the thing is, that's why learning a lot of form is just inventory. Because it's still, doesn't matter which form you have it's the same one. Cutting hands the same one, spreading the hands, the circles are the same. The circles are the same. They're essentially movements. The difference between forms and a variety of form is your bag of tricks. When the hands are here, how do you know the variations of when you're in a situation? Because the situations are not always set up like you would want it to be. And you might be in a position where it's almost there, but not quite. So in application, there's full form, half form, partial form, and mixtures. So the solid form is this for practice. But your body you might be like this. That's still part of the body form. But then when it resets into the position, that's sort of like the true position. In between, it's a compromise. So if your position's compromised, then you have to adjust the body to find where it should be to be the full position. So you pass through those to get to that final position. So variety form will teach you how to go from point A to point B in numerous ways. But basically, low, middle, high, middle, and low. That really covers the passing through and the figure 8 and also. So when you have it like this, you also have it like this, right? So you have the circle. You have the circle. So if you know the figure 8 in space and you design it to go, when you're here, here, and here, and you turn, that's essentially what happens when you do those movements. So that was something that Lawrence was saying. How does that happen? It's the pattern that the body has learned, because to make that S shape or the figure 8 is a manipulation of these joints. The first one is this, the arm. Second one is the body. Then the legs. How do all of that happen? It's very complex stuff, because most of us that have, busy lives don't have time to think about figure 8s in space, right? Most of us don't do that. But so as recreational players and long-term players, there's no rush. We know even this is part of that figure. If this is the figure 8, then what's this? It's cutting hand. What is this? It's just sinking. So the body becomes very familiar with the action within the space. So the reference points is your body, right? High, middle, and low, 45, 45. Everything passes through those dimensions of space. You don't have to go over there. You want to go over there, you turn. Then you're over here, you turn, right? You're here, you cut, you open, you turn, you're over here. Here, 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 we're over there. That's all you're doing. But your body typically won't be able to track that. When we're here, we go down and we turn. So this is the inside of that, right? The elbow position. So when we're here and we go like this, we're here. Because we have this, we do this. Now this hand joins this. We sink and turn. Because we sink and turn, this hand turns with the body. So where we lose our position is when we put too much effort in the arm. Because when we scoop, and we sink and we turn, it's really trying to get these configurations to work with the rotational movement. So when we're here, 1, this goes up, right? That's the beginning part of. So when you sink your knee and you sink your elbow, so you just watch this something, and you might be not obvious to you, but you sink your elbows and your knees. So this part of the rise is this. This part of the rise is this. This is the turn. This is the sink. That's your cutting hand, right? So if you want to integrate the body, it has to come like this. Now this hand actually just comes through here. But once it gets to here, it's part of the body. And the closing and opening comes from your body turning and moving. See? Sink. Turn. Now, this is something that we don't, elbows and knees. Right? Lift. Turn. Sink. Now sinking, you have to cover the shoulder. When we sink and it covers the shoulder, this ends up here. Turn. I don't leave here. I don't go to here to push. I turn to my body and then I come through the center. So there's a lot of sort of phases in motion where your body has to get there to set up and then execute. So there's it's relearning, but it's not really so much relearning as adding those positioning things into your movement. Because when we talk about muscle memory and sequential memory and transitional memory, it's all tied to that stuff. Because each part of our body has its own intelligence. So you take it in those permutations of all the different parts of your body that have to work together. You imagine how complex that is. And you say, well, how come I can't get it today? Well, you have to get something, at least one thing first, then you get the second thing, you get the third thing, and it all comes together. So it is all theoretical. Yeah. But anyways, so then I see somebody working on that. So after we push here, then we step. But we don't put weight on that foot until we do this. And when we do this, we let this go. Because here, we're going to come up and turn. So this punch is really like this, like doing a curl. But what we're doing here, when we sink, I turn, and I get my body here, and I just have to do this, and it ends up there. Your body behind it, yeah. That's it. You don't have to look for it. It's just there. We know this. But we don't know it if we keep it separate, right? So that's the category of movement. Yep, so she doesn't know it. Oh, no. No, I'm kidding. Go. Ready? Hup. Sink. Yeah. Yeah, get in the horse stance. Yeah, step. No. Step to the middle, though. Okay. So we're here. Step through the middle. Because if you step like this, then you can't use the effort from that setup, right? So the idea is to pass through center, plant this foot, but not commit. Sink, set, lift. The body's ready to project forward, but when it does, this leg has to straighten. Boom. Then we pass through here, step, sink, up, twist the body, right? Shift. 1, 2, 3. Split. 1. Yeah. So where's the intent? The intent is here. So it combines with the movement. That becomes continuity, and you can even call it yung yi. Yi is like mind intent, and then you follow. Now, when you follow, it sinks, right? So your body's turning, but look at, as soon as I turn, look at my hand. It's just naturally sinking and gravitating toward or gyrating toward this movement. So then when I get to here, I project the force from here. So it's not that, it's this, because of rear leg. My hand moved from here to there, so the force came from that extension of the body. So that's how you learn to not use strength. It's here and then here. It's seated and cupping, because now this and this becomes a unit of catching, capturing. So that's using your strength. Now, years ago I would say, when we learn Kung Ji Kun, we're learning to use our strength. But what did that mean, right? Now you add this to it, you learn to use your strength in your forms. This is fundamentally, basically, strength and structure and kind of physical movement. Now this is going to more intrinsic motion with the integration or the unification of our body, putting it in harmony. What? Yeah, you fold. So that happens here. It happens in the black tiger. So folding and unfolding is creating a structure, because this is your natural structure. It's not natural to be there. It's not natural because it's not tied to your body. Your torso is the strength component, and your legs are some of the driving forces. So legs, torso, that creation of position develops the natural strength. So you have structure, you have the correct amount of strength. So it's not just, okay, so if you put your hand here, no, both hands, you do this too. It's not just letting it go. You let go and then there's something there. So you still have to regulate how much there is. Now what, the change of that intensity is a variable, because I don't know what he's putting there for strength, right? So I have to detect that. That goes into a level of your sensory system detecting. So what are you detecting? You're weighing out how much force there is. So your body is like a scale. It feels the weight of your arm, which is a force, and then you transition, and it's modified to adapt to that without being excessive. Because if it's excessive, then you waste your energy. It's excessive, then you throw yourself off balance if it's not there. Because what if it's not there and you go like that, then you're going to fall over yourself. So that's the commitment that you have to make through using the sensitivity, which is part of body intelligence. And that sensitivity is how it feels when you're doing the form. When you add that additional force, your body knows it. So the concept of know thyself, you know thy enemy, right? If you know enough about your own feeling, then you know where the zero is, and then anything is above or below, you adapt. But if you don't know your own strength and you're just always using that strength like that, you never have any sensitivity to your movement. So excessiveness and strength on a look or appearance really is not good. Because when you face your enemy, if you let him know where all your strength is, what is he going to do, right? He's going to destroy your all the strong parts. That's a military strategy. They don't tell you where all their power stuff is, because that's going to get attacked. So you have to go into a position, and when they attack, they don't even know if they should or shouldn't. The principle to that, the Qigong would say, Jin Jin Ga Ga da Nan Mok Chak. That means you don't really know whether it's real or fake. It's there, but you don't know whether you should deal with it with power or not. So that's how you have to deal with your body. So when we do forms, and a lot of non-traditionalists think forms are useless. But, I learned all this stuff through the form. I didn't learn it from the gym. I learned it doing this. How do you know? You can't do curls and presses and chin-ups and planks and develop this. You're developing the wrong muscles. That's good for, maybe going to the beach. Maybe if you're a bodybuilder, you want to look good. But, right now with the COVID, you can't go to the beach anyway, so. But that's young person stuff, right? Getting fit, and my kids are like that. They're all into that. But tell them to listen to what an old man would tell you, and they don't want to listen. It's you have to reach a level of mental maturity to want to do something that's like this. So old people do Tai Chi. That's how it is. And yeah. 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 When you're here, this is splitting, right? So this movement is a little bit more complicated than we actually make it out to be. When we go like this and we step back, this hand is doing this. Now, if I do this, there's two ways of doing it. See if you see the difference, right? If I'm here, because it's already programmed in me. But the thing is, when I intercept his hand, I don't press it. That's a cover, right? I relax first and then I press. So the movement ends up like this, but you didn't see this part of it. Yeah. So for first, once you get to this position, then this becomes this. So what do you grab or not? It's this, this. This is the redirecting, and then you chop. Now, if you want to use just this on the other side, this is actually for this side. So when you grab, you sink the elbow because you intercept with your forearm. Your forearm is the connector, and then the hand is here. Now, when you're here, if you don't, I can't actually stay like that because there's no leverage. I have to close here and then squeeze here as the gripping. So it's this. This is a closing. Yeah. The closing, because it's like carrying groceries. You don't carry them out here. You carry them in here, right? When you carry a bag, even a pocketbook, you carry it close to the body. You don't want to leave it out there and let someone grab it. But the thing is, even if it's a heavy bag, you want to hang it on your elbow or you hang it off your shoulder. Laptop bags, you keep it close to your body. Because you're not building strength carrying them. You're doing it because it's a functional thing and you have to bring it with you. And you want to do it as effortlessly as possible. So the closer it is to your body, and that's what this is. That's what this is. So when we do Tai Chi, we do all these things in the form. You notice a lot of folding and unfolding, spreading and lifting. The knees and the upper body is building a relationship. The fact that we bend our knees and then expand and not just go like this and like this, which is compatible in direction, but doesn't develop the interaction of the equal opposites and the response to that. So you're developing body response to central equilibrium and balance. So when the body expands and contracts, it's doing that as a response. It happens, the slightest thing is, a minute action is really when you lift your arms up. But most of us lift the arm up, we don't tip over. But if you're in a perfect state, your body would float. If you were completely relax and you lift like this, you would actually fall over because you got a force out here. It's heavier out here. But we don't fall over because why? The body has tension and it resists. But how much should it resist? We don't really know, right? So that's why, people can do all these movements, but there's no feeling or experience in the rest of the body because you're not conscious and you're not actually letting your body feel the difference. Now, when you feel the difference in the body, then you're always going to start to feel difference in every single one of your postures. That's how you develop this downward expand and contract and open and close. It's done soft and slowly to build the mechanics, and then the intensity of movement, you know, can be driven. So we don't really use a lot of power in the movement unless you're doing a performance or you're actually using it. We do it kind of in between for balance, but don't run through your forms sloppily. You don't want to go through them and not have structure. You have to have the structure mainly because if you don't finish the movement, there's no feedback to hear. This tells you what to do. It doesn't do it exactly right. You have to keep doing it. But once you do it right, there's got to be a feedback to tell you that that's the final position and that's what you're looking for. And then it becomes intrinsic. It's innate. It's all there. So that's it. Oh, you want to do full hawk? Okay, see if it all shows up now. All the principles will show right up. Okay, go. Okay, go. We'll do first half. Learning how to use our strength. Right, go. It's okay. You can practice, Paul. Yeah, we'll go over there. You stuck anywhere? Anymore? Yeah. You didn't. How far did you get? Up to the tigers? Okay. Yeah. You have any up to that point? You okay? Pretty much. Yeah. So you get up to your here, right? And then you have your first tiger, right? So yeah, and then you okay here. Then you would step backwards and do a butterfly, and then push, and that's where the beginning of the tigers come. So let me just explain you. I'll give you three tigers. Then you can just practice them before you do the footwork. So when you're in a horse stance and you cover, you put your hand here and push. Yeah, so that's called a double tiger. When you sit back and go to a cat stance right side and you hook, that's a single tiger. And that's here, right? So those two happen, they cycle through double tiger, single tiger. So that's what you practice first. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's the two doubles. So so this one stays here. No, not just the doubles. See, a double is a leaning one off the back leg. A double off the back leg. Okay. A single are the cat stance ones. So it's off the back foot, the palm. If you switch feet, you have one on each side. Yeah. And this here. Right. And that's a hook hand, right? On your waist. Yeah. So you have practice the right and left side before we do the stepping. And that'll and when what you're practicing, not just the position, but to build some strength in that leg and some body form for this. So you can do it by holding it after you get to the position, just to get your body accustomed to supporting the weight. And then this comes from here. If I toe out, it's a cover hand. This comes here and you push. And once you get that, then next class, maybe Saturday, we add some stepping. There's 10 tigers, but there are 5 singles and 5 doubles. So, yeah, so Full Hawk has a lot of postures, but it all falls into those categories, things that we talk about. You know, learning these principles and concept is really the theoretical side of it. It's important for long-term practitioners. It's good, important for teachers. But I spent, I think, close to 27 years with my teacher. Now it's another 27 years before I figured out what I'm telling you now. So when year 28, 29, 30, I didn't understand this stuff the same way I understand it now. Because you have to go through the process and evolve. And while, you're going through that, it's just housing information. Later on, it was all just talk. Explaining things, writing, giving me some passages. And, not a whole lot of physical stuff, just going through it to understand the theoretical. Because without that, you have no vision and nothing to practice really, because you don't know where you're going with it. It's just a form. So you have to understand it on this level. So you tie it into the physiology of movement, the physiology of exercise, tie it into the concepts and theories of what goes on neurologically, understand the body as it is, and understand body mechanics, take in everything that's involved with the sciences of whether it's movement or material structures. Then you start to understand how the human body works and how it's tied together. Then you can teach something that people can appreciate, and it's not a bill of goods. If some person tell you, if you practice this and you'll be invincible, what's that gonna? It's not gonna prove anything. So, anyways, we'll bow. Up. Salute.